Everybody, it's Maudie Wolf. Welcome to the first podcast. I am here with Jane Corbin. Jane, thank you so much for being my very first guest on my first podcast. We're going to be talking success today with Jane. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here with you. I'm excited that I was chosen as your first.
Thumbs up all the way. Jane is an amazing business owner that I met a couple of years ago. Jane owns Bark Me Beautiful, a full-service dog grooming studio in Longmont, Colorado. They do scissor cuts, they do the clipper cuts. I mean, full service. They take care of your pet so well. Is there anything I missed?
We do everything from basic summer short trims all the way up to breed profile, hand scissored, fancy show clips. So all of those in between. And then all the extra things that people don't necessarily want to think about, but cleaning the ears or the rear ends, those kinds of fun things. So
you take care of the
nose
pet.
to tail.
Nose to tail. I was thinking of a way to say that. Thank you, Jane.
Yep.
So, Jane, I met you 2 years ago, and we did a video, and I was amazed by what I experienced. So, tell me a little bit, and tell the audience a little bit about what does your business look like today? How are things going in your business today?
So today we have a staff of, I believe it is 9 of us. We have 2 part-time receptionists, 2 bathers currently, and then I have 4 full-time groomers, plus myself running around all the time.
Can't get away from that.
We service anywhere between 20 and 30 dogs a day normally, and we are here Monday through Friday. So we're very busy every week, keeping up on making sure that all of those pups look the best they can.
So that's an amazing staff that you have going, right? So take me back. Is this something that you wanted to do from the very beginning?
Actually, I always said I would never be a dog groomer. To be completely honest, I grew up showing dogs. My parents had Old English sheepdogs, and that breed in particular is very hairy, and it could take anywhere from 6 to 8 hours to do a grooming on one dog to prep for a dog show. So in my mind as that young kid doing that, I absolutely loved being around dogs, but that was a lot of work. And so I didn't realize that people actually made a living grooming dogs, because I thought if every dog takes me 8 hours to groom, I will never make any money. I won't be able to charge enough for that. So I had bounced around in other jobs, canine education and working pet retail, those kinds of things. And I was in a position where it wasn't the best job I could have been in at that moment in time. And so I was frustrated, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to go see if I can be a bather, because I know how to wash dogs. That's something I'm good at. So I walked into a grooming salon and said, I just want to be a bather. And she hired me, thankfully. And within about 3 months, she had realized that I knew a lot more than I let on to, and that I was capable of doing a lot more. So that's when she had me start grooming. And I've been grooming ever since, and absolutely love it. Turns out, though, that not everybody is business savvy. And being the person I am, I thought I could do something better and make more money at it and be more successful. So I left her and opened my own business at 21 years of age. It's actually a week after my 21st birthday were my first opening days.
Oh my gosh. So your first opening day, was it just you and clippers? I mean, was it,
It was
what was
me
it?
in 450 square feet. I had, I think, maybe 1 grooming table, 1 dryer. I had bought a cage bank so I could house a couple of dogs, and I had my paper calendar sitting on the table waiting for those pups to walk through the door. And I was very lucky in that I had a following from my previous employer. So I had dogs booked from the time that I said I was going to open my doors. One of our friends from the theater that I was doing musical theater at, he had me groom his dog at home for the in-between while I was transitioning over, because he was like, no, I'm going to be your first customer. And he made sure he was.
Wow. So you had just decided, again, just from seeing somebody else's process, had decided that I bet I could do it better.
I knew I could do it better. There was no thinking. It was, there was a lot of chaos at that job, and I was watching the money, and I'm a pretty smart cookie, so I'm watching how much she's spending on things and how much she's charging, and I went, this doesn't add up. And that right there was enough for me to say, you know what, I can do this better. And so I did. I walked away and started my own, and we started with absolutely nothing. I started with all of the equipment that we had from dog shows. Basically borrowed it from my mom and said, hey mom, I'll give you your table back when I can afford my own. And just started grooming. Booked 1 or 2 dogs a day and built from there.
Now, when you started building your business, did you have goals in mind, or were you trying to just was it a number of grooms, or was it a dollar figure, or what was your first goal in that moment when you first opened your doors? What did you shoot for?
I think what I shot for was just having dogs on the schedule a good number of days a week, whether that be 3 or 5, whatever it was at that time. I honestly don't remember, but just making sure that I had money coming in. And I did a lot of things wrong back then, but I learned as I went, and everything about my journey as an entrepreneur and a business owner has been learning as you go and making adjustments and going with my gut. So I borrowed, I think it was a friend's book from school, and set my prices based on that. And then I think it was in the beginning, it was, okay, what do I need to do to break even? And at that point in time, I still lived at home. I think all I had bill-wise was a car payment and maybe an insurance bill. My mom was paying my cell phone, like we had rent to cover and utilities, that kind of thing, but the overhead was very, very minimal. So it made it a lot easier to go a couple of months and then start turning a profit right away.
So so going from that first venture, when did you start hiring other people? When did you get so busy where you had to really look at, I'm exhausted. What am I doing? What was that change that led you to, what we all want to do, grow, and just where you couldn't deny it anymore?
I think what got me to that point was when I was grooming, oh my goodness, I was probably doing 6 to 8 dogs a day, and I was doing all of the work by myself, so the whole process straight through, and I think I was working a full 6 days a week, and it was chaos. And so I never set out to hire employees. I never set out to grow the business that much. It was never something that was in my long-term goals. And there are a lot of groomers out there that do work completely by themselves, and they're happy that way. Most of them have now gone mobile and work in mobile vans because their overhead is minimal that way, and everything goes with them. But I didn't really set out to have an employee. And I think it might have been somebody walked in and said, hey, do you need help? And I went, well, yeah, I do. And so I went through a couple of employees in the beginning where it was just a bather, somebody to help me do the prep work or something like that. And I can't say that I had very many successful employees in the beginning, but I was still young and naive to the process of having employees. And it wasn't until I had a lady walk in, and she obviously knew what she was doing. She had been grooming for well over 10 years, and her business was being sold. The company she was working for was being sold. And so she said, hey, do you just need a little bit of extra help? And I hired her, and that was the best thing I could have done. I was terrified. Would I have enough work to keep her employed? Would I be able to pay her? Because cash flow in a small business is always struggling. But it was her and her personality that changed my mind to having employees, because she was an amazing person to work with and so gracious and taught me so many things just about life and that positive outlook and having goals and working towards things. So she holds a very dear place in my heart.
Now, how long had you been in business before you hired her?
Ooh, I want to say it was 5 or 6 years in before I really hired an employee.
Wow.
And I went through those phases of, I'm not growing. And I look back now and I go, I was growing. I was increasing the number of dogs that I took care of on a daily basis. But I watched my other business friends who were expanding into different locations or multiple locations or bigger buildings. And I struggled for a bit of, should I be growing? And now I know that it wasn't the right time. I wasn't ready for it. But it happened, and it happened in stages as we grew. So I hired her, and then it got to be where we didn't have enough room to house all the pups that she and I were grooming. And so at that point in time, I started looking at my options of expanding, and that's when we relocated. I believe we did that in 2012. So that's been 6 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would have been 6 years ago that we relocated, and I took on, and I think I doubled my square footage at that point. And it was just the two of us in that double square footage. And of course, I'm having those panic moments of, am I going to be able to pay the rent now? But at that time, I had also gotten myself into some tax problems because as an entrepreneur, I was not doing my due diligence and learning about paying withholdings for myself. And so that year I filed my taxes, and we had been doing them ourselves. And my dad was helping me with that. And I turned around and there was a $20,000 tax bill because I hadn't been paying withholdings. And that scared me. So at that point in time, I realized that I needed to reach out and get help. And so I hired a tax accountant, and he made my life a lot easier and saved me on that. But at that point, so it was two of us in this bigger building. And it so happened that I had said out loud, I was like, you know what? I think it's time for another groomer. And the universe provides in some amazing ways. There was a gal who came in. She had been at the gas station that's out in front of our parking lot. And she walked in and said, hey, do you need a groomer? And I went, actually, yes. And so that was where we added a third person to the team. And we stayed
Just like that.
We stayed like that for a little while, where it was just the three of us. And then things happen and things change, and there for a while, I want to say it was probably about 4 years, there was only 3 to 4 of us groomers. We didn't have any bathing support or any additional help from other staff members. And then, of course, things happen and people move on with life and things change, and my world was rocked because I was down to myself and one other employee. And at that point, I had expanded a second time, and we had added additional square footage. So now I had a 1,200 square foot location and only 2 groomers. And it brought me down to the foundations of, where am I? What am I doing? Where do I need to go? And how am I going to get there? And I sat down with my sister, who, thankfully for her, she has a background in business and management. And she had just graduated with a degree in business. And so she knew all the HR stuff that I didn't know, and the payroll stuff and whatever else goes along with that. And she sat down and said, okay, what do you want? Where do you want to see yourself? And from there, I set goals and said, I would like 2 bathers. I want to have 4 groomers. And that was where things started to change, and that's where we really started to grow. And that was only, a year and a half ago. Maybe, just about 2 years ago. It wasn't...
You brought up something that I think is really interesting. I'd like to get a little bit more feedback on that, and that is the setting of goals. Up until this point, you've been going with the flow. You've been, like you said, the universe has provided. And then here, your sister comes in and actually says, what do you want? And as an entrepreneur, I know it's I don't know what I want, or it's like, I'm just trying to get through the day. What do you mean what I want? But that goal setting, it's paramount.
It really is. It's super important to know where you want to be and what do you want things to look like. Not necessarily from a financial side, although that's important too, but how do you see things flowing? What are your processes? What do you stand for in your product that you're providing? Those things were really key for me to say, this is what I expect, and having that expectation. And then being able to say, okay, I'm delegating this task or that task to each employee that I've hired to do a job. And I struggle with that on a daily basis because all of my employees are my friends and my family, first and foremost, but at the end of the day, they're still my employees. And so I have to have expectations. And that's something that I'm working on still, is knowing where that boss line has to be and what expectations are realistic. But being able to dream and say, I would love to see 8 employees in here. That it's a scary place to be, but if you set that goal and you know what you're working for, you can move towards that. And each thing builds on it, the next, to be able to get to that point.
Well, absolutely. And I think it's, in order to get to that point, going back to the employees, it's important to have parameters. Yes, they're your friends and your family, but as such, you have to create a place that they can grow as well. And that's one of the things I love about what you've done. I mean, you have an amazing staff. And I think those parameters, you can't set those and expectations and give people, an idea of what to expect and what they can expect from you, of themselves and whatnot. So I can see that as being very, very important, and to your point, very scary too.
It's terrifying. Because I look at employees and I go, I am responsible for making sure that they have a livelihood now, and making sure that they have a job to come to every day. And as much as I think that things are going to fail at any given moment, they don't. And they don't fail overnight. It's not like that. And that's a nice security to have. And to know that as much as we've grown, we grew very slowly. And I don't think that it will go anywhere but up. Everything continues to go up and outwards.
Absolutely.
But I'm a positive person too, so I like to keep that.
I'm just throwing it out there. I'm a positive person.
You have to stay positive as a business owner because there's a lot of crap and a lot of things that can really build and build and build until you feel like you're just fighting through the sludge. And it sucks sometimes. It really does.
Yeah.
But as long as you keep working for that goal and that doing what you do best and doing what you love, that'll keep anybody going.
Absolutely. I always describe it as, it's peaks and valleys, and sometimes those valleys are lower than they were last time. But boy, when you get on those peaks and it's, I got to win today, and that is, in my mind, that's the hallmark of being an entrepreneur, is seeing the successes, however tiny, to keep that passion building on itself.
That's what I love about you, is you keep reminding me of those little things. I might not think that I made a progress in whatever I was working on when you walk in my office, but you always make sure to show me that, wow, you achieved that today. That's awesome. So I surround myself with positive people who do help me with those kinds of things, because otherwise you can get bogged down.
Oh, it's easy to lose sight. And so, but that's amazing of, like you said, it's keeping those people around you that inspire you, or even pat you on the back every once in a while. Those are always good people to have.
Absolutely.
And so now you've got this beautiful space. And speaking of your employees, love the new space you just added for them. Be able to provide.
I did.
Tell me about that.
I added 300 square feet, which seems so minimal, but we were able to add an actual break room with a table and chairs so they can get away from all the hair and the noise and whatever else comes along with being at work during the day. And they have a place that they can go and relax and take care of themselves for 15 minutes or a half an hour or whatever the case might be. And along with that, I got an office. So I now have a place that I can feel like a boss and escape to so that I can be productive. Because it's hard to be productive in the environment where you're working. And that's something I will tell any entrepreneur. Set aside a space that is yours and yours alone to do business so that you can clear your mind and be able to set those goals and think freely, because you need that quiet space.
Speaking of, so there have just been a couple of changes in your studio about you particularly, and to your point, you have an office and you've been
I get to be boss.
Step back a little bit.
I did. I worked on getting myself off of the schedule. I went through a phase of I'm working so hard. I'm here at 7:30 in the morning. I'm here till 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night, and it's constant. And I said, I need more time to be a manager and to make sure that the administrative things that go along with business were getting done. And through an article that I read in one of our grooming magazines, they actually said, are you an employee in your business or are you in charge of your business? And it made me sit back and think very long and hard, because I do absolutely love grooming, but I think I love managing and running the business more at this point in time. So I came off of the schedule. I do not have clients that can book with me on a regular basis anymore, which was scary.
I would imagine.
Because I had a lot of people that were unhappy with that change, because it's a hard change to make. But it also gives me the freedom to be able to support my team and help give them the education or those little fine detail tips that I wasn't able to take the time to give them before. So now I have a bit more time to support everybody on my team and run away to my office and get the employee handbook done, or work on making sure that we have job agreements or job descriptions so that new employees coming in. I'm also working on a facilities book, which kind of will outline all of the fine details of how the building operates, where all the light switches are, how laundry gets done.
A business owner, fun stuff.
Cleaning procedures, all of those fun things. So I'm working on those in my spare time.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, in your what?
In my spare time.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought you said.
Yeah. When those little times when I can sneak away to the office and write a paragraph. But that's crazy too, because I've always been told that people see me being a writer and never thought I would be a writer or be able to create in that way, but I am. I get to build all of those things from scratch, and not necessarily from scratch, because I've got templates or examples of other places of employment to use as examples for building those.
But you've got so much background in things that you've done right and things you've done wrong in your business that I don't know if you could have written a handbook prior to now.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
But that's funny because we've been talking about that for 2 years.
Yeah. It actually has pages to it now.
Yes.
It's 4 pages long, I think. It was longer than that, but the computer didn't save it. And so I have to rebuild. The joys of technology, right?
Yeah. It peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys.
Can't live without it, but sometimes you really want to.
So in addition to the studio here in Longmont, what I find fascinating too is as you walk through, you see all these ribbons and trophies and whatnot. You actually show. Is that correct?
I am a competitive groomer. So we have trade shows all over the U.S. Throughout the year. And they are trade shows, and you can go and you can shop and do classes and educate, but you can also compete. So they have entries, and they're broken into different classes. So each group is a different type of breed of dogs, and then we're given a certain amount of time to be able to groom that dog. Now we do all our prep work, so the dogs are bathed and dried and brushed out and ready to be groomed, and we're told that we have to have 6 to 8 weeks worth of growth or enough hair on that dog to show a change by the time we're done. And so we go in and we are timed and we are judged, and they do pre-judging to look at the dog before and judging after, and then they award from there. And those awards then equate to U.S. Groom Team points. And the goal is to earn enough Groom Team points to make our USA Groom Team, which then goes and travels to the world competition every other year, and they compete at the world competition, which is an incredible show. Like, I've watched it live on the internet the last couple of years. I've watched probably 3 of them. And it's amazing to watch all of the groomers from the US and from every other country. There's usually 30 or so countries represented at that competition. But it's an amazing, cool thing. But I find it very valuable because I've learned a lot about, number one, being humble and knowing that, yes, my grooms are good, but there are a lot of groomers who are even better than me.
Now, are there any grooming techniques or certain types of dogs that you specialize in or that your studio is known for?
I specialize in Portuguese water dogs, and now I'm adding poodles to that list of dogs that I specialize in. But that's because of showing and being in the dog show conformation world. People knew me from the dog show world, and everybody says, "Oh, she's got Portuguese water dogs, so go see her because she knows how to groom them properly." Because that is a thing of Portuguese water dogs. Not everybody knows what they're supposed to look like based on their breed standard. And so some of them come back from groomers and they've got long ears, or their faces are a little too short. They end up looking kind of poodly. And that's one thing that water dog owners do not want, is to poodle their water dog, because they paid good money to have that specific breed. So those are the 2 breeds that I specialize in the most. But I specialize in problem puppies, ones that maybe have a harder time with grooming. They might be aggressive, they might be elderly, they can't stand as well, those kinds of things. So we take extra time and care to make it so that those processes for them are just as enjoyable, even though they might need to sit down the whole time, or unfortunately they might need a muzzle so that they're safe while they're being groomed. But I've rehabbed a lot of dogs who hated grooming and didn't want to be touched at all. And now they come in and they're happy to be here. And they may not love the process still, but they trust me, and we gain a bond there so that they can get the process done in a safe, efficient manner, and then they don't have to do it again for a little while. So,
well, that's one thing that I noticed the first time I met you was the atmosphere in your studio, and it's, there so much was going on. Dogs were being checked in, dogs were being checked out. Everybody was grooming. I think you had maybe 4 tables, and everything was going on. The phone was ringing. And
phone rings all the time. And that's a great problem to have, but it can add a whole nother level of chaos to a room. And dogs barking. It's chaotic. And I think I said to you, I was like, please, if we're in your way, let us know.
But I know but it was just so, but the atmosphere was still, it was, dare I say, pleasant. When you would expect, all that noise going on, it didn't seem like a lot of pressure. I mean, the atmosphere that was created was, it is what it is.
It's controlled chaos.
Controlled chaos.
It's controlled chaos in my life all the time. I work very, very hard at keeping things calm and in control. When you're working with live animals, that can vary from minute to minute, because that one dog might walk in with an energy that is not necessarily fit for a grooming environment. But we work very hard to relax everybody and to keep ourselves in check so that we're not adding additional negative energy to the room.
Huge.
And I know that was something you said to me, is it's so calm in here. And my perception, it was not a calm day, but it is what I work for. And I want the dogs to be happy when they walk in, and I want them to be happy when they leave. And you do that by creating a positive environment. Unfortunately, those dogs were born into a life of grooming. Their breeds dictated that for them. They didn't choose it. So if we can make it positive, that's the best thing we can do. And I'm lucky and grateful that I work a lot in energy work and essential oils and those natural things that can help. And I've noticed a huge difference since I've added more of those. In calming and making sure that it is a clean, clear, safe environment for everybody involved.
Yeah, everybody, pets and people walking in too.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. I had the best compliment one day. I was up front and we had a fairly chaotic afternoon. And this woman walks in. Hi, how are you? What can I do for you today? And she goes, "Oh, I don't have a dog." Okay, what can I do for you then? And she goes, oh, I was waiting for my friend at the other business over here. And she goes, I was sitting there watching. And she goes, I've been out there for about an hour and lots of dogs have come and gone. And she goes, every dog that has come in and gone out has been happy. And you can see that they're happy. And I went, oh my gosh, that is the best compliment I could have ever gotten. Because that is
Absolutely.
why I do it, is to make them happy and to make them feel good. And it was so emotional for me. It still is. Because that means we're doing our job and we're doing it well. And that's always the cherry on top, is to know that you're doing what you set out to do.
Absolutely. So where since we talked about goals, where do you see this going? Because I know you're starting to add a little bit more in terms of treats and foods, and you've kind of
Yes.
taken that on, and tell me a little bit about that.
I want to be able to make sure that everybody has the best products for their pets. And unfortunately, our industry changes constantly. And so there's a lot of mismarketing, maybe, or that they're marketing for the humans and not necessarily for the health of the pets in some products. So I made it my goal to do the research for the owners and bring in the best products that I could that are USA made, that are Colorado made if possible.
Nice.
And making sure that they are local and made with good ingredients that are healthy for your pets. And then anything and everything to go along with that. I've got toys, I've got a couple of leashes up there. Other supplemental things like CBD oil to help with aches and pains or anxiety. We've got all kinds of products up front there.
I love every time I come in, it's more and more empty, but the fresh breath stand that you have, like, just keep refilling that because they
Yep.
love it, right?
I actually need to reorder soon. That's on my to-do list right now. Yeah, the teeth care is a big thing because a lot of dogs have dental problems and we don't think about needing to brush our dog's teeth. And really, who wants to brush their dog's teeth? I know I don't. So instead we have a water additive that we sell, and that is a great way for dogs to have that little added support to their oral hygiene without having to do a ton of work. So
You don't want to stress the dogs out,
no,
right?
absolutely not.
Something in your water, you drink it, and we'll all be happy.
My dog will look at it once in a while and he'll go, really, you had to add that? And then he goes out to the other water bowl and he goes, oh, it's there too. I guess I'll drink it. But he's kind of picky, so
Yeah.
I baby him. What can I say?
I
He's
think you
my
must have
baby.
to. I think you have to, right?
Pet or dogs are not just pets anymore. We're not tossing them in the backyard and having them for the purposes that they were bred for. There are babies and there are children. We have to take care of them like they are.
And that definitely comes through as to how you care for other people's babies.
Absolutely. Each dog that comes through our door is treated like they're our own. Maybe even better because they're spoiled. Mine hasn't had a bath in 4 weeks.
You're like the grandparents.
Yes, we're the grandparents for all of the client pups. But they become a part of our family too. And we cry when they depart this world, just like their owners do. Because we have a bond with them. And I walked in today, I wasn't working, and walked in and there was a dog that I've been grooming I've probably groomed him for 8 years. And he saw me and started howling. He was so excited. And I'm like, oh, how are you, dude? What's happening? And that was awesome. And it's cool. It's cool to be able to affect their lives like that.
And it's a testament to you fulfilling your passion, because if that was what you wanted to do, and you've gotten confirmation from some stranger that sat in her car for an hour, and then you've got confirmation from a dog that was so happy to see you.
My favorite is when the owners come in and they go, okay, I got to show you this video, and they pull out their phone and they pull it up and it's them saying, oh, Fluffy, you want to go see Jane? And the dog starts dancing around and their tails are wiggling and they're bouncing from couch to couch, and you're like, yes, that's awesome.
Can I have that for my marketing, please? Can you email that to Jane at?
I have had owners do that. I've had a couple owners show me pictures of their dogs after they're freshly groomed, and the one dog, he smiles. And so it's him sitting there, and he had been groomed maybe a week prior, and he's got this big old grin, and it almost looks scary because he's showing so much of his teeth. But I know him, and I know he's not scary.
Right.
So it was like, send me that. I want to use that in one of my ads somewhere. And they do. They love for you to share their animals.
Oh, absolutely.
Facebook is their friends are seeing that stuff, and it helps to tell others about us, because they might post the picture of their pet, and their friend who has never even heard of us sees it and goes, "Oh yeah, that's where I need to go, because look at how happy he is."
Yeah, I want my dog to be that happy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So where do you see the future? I mean, is it you've grown here? What's the next phase?
So growing, part of the reason that I decided to come off of the schedule was so that I'd have some more time to manage, because my next step will be to open a second location and to go into renting another space and having another team of employees to service in another area. And I kind of had to put my plans on hold there for a little while. I jumped the gun too quick and realized it before I got too deep into it, which
Thank
was
goodness.
good. But I realized that I needed some more foundational things set up before I made that leap. And maybe one day we'll franchise, I don't know. For now, having a second location would be a huge jump. And then maybe a third, who knows? But that's my goal right now, is to be able to get into a second location and to have another team that can grow and supply that many more jobs and provide service to that many more pets. And
Absolutely.
go from there.
Well, taking what you've built here, and I think that's so important and scary.
Yeah.
I mean, trust me, this is can all be scary, but can be so rewarding. Is to know that you've got the kinks out here, and you know what works, you know what doesn't. To the extent to even think about, let me open another location. More people can benefit.
Yep.
From this, employees and also clients. And to me, I think that's such a big part of the entrepreneurial journey. Is, at least for me, it's like, why stay here? Why plateau? As scary as it is to jump forward.
I have made multiple decisions in my business career, and my mom or my friends will say, "You're nuts. What's wrong with you? That's not going to work. Why are you doing that? You're going to scare everybody off." And every time I've done it, I've known in my gut and in my heart that it's the right choice for me. And yes, it's extremely scary. And have I made some decisions that haven't worked out? Sure. But I'm going to say probably 85% of the time that I make giant decisions and jump in head first, they succeed, because I believe in it. And I believe that it can work, and therefore I make it work. In whatever way that is. And it takes adjustments sometimes. It takes fiddling with this or that,
And being open to.
but it always works because I make sure it works. I'm one of those people who no is not an answer. If it's no, well then okay, what do we need to do to change it to make it a yes? Because somehow it will work for me. And with growing the business too, I'm hoping that I can step back a little more and be able to have my own life. Because I have been 100% in this business since I started in 2007. And I can't tell you the number of nights I've gone home around Christmas and my husband's like, "Are you ever coming home? Are you ever going to stay home?" Because I'm here all the time. And if I'm not here, I'm at home working on something. So I'd like to be able to step back and have some space and boundaries and maybe a family of my own and do those hobby things that I still enjoy to do that have to wait until the weekends or 3 months from now. I'm trying to learn to live for today and not wait 3 months or 3 years or whatever the case might be.
And that varies.
Always.
Some days it's, next week, and then it turns into next month, and then next year.
Or 2 years from now.
And and you do need to pause and make sure that that it is the right thing for you, right?
Yes. Yeah. No, and it may be the right thing for you, may not be the right thing for everybody around you, but you have to take care of you. And that's a hard lesson to learn for an entrepreneur, because we are constantly giving and creating, and how can we make more out of nothing really. Like I picked up and started with nothing.
Yeah.
And I've built an incredible business and an incredible team. And those things I have to stop and appreciate and go, I did that. That means a lot. And even though I don't feel like I've made the leaps that I was hoping to make, I got to count every single little step as an accomplishment. And when I stop and look at those, then I go, oh yeah, okay, I've done a lot more than I think I have done.
Right. Again, it's the successes. Entrepreneurs, success is so subjective.
Yeah.
And you have to keep on your path. It's important to look at every little win. Count your successes, because some days it's hard. Right?
Yes.
Some days you just, this is, why did I do this?
I've had those days, and recently too, where it's just everything is so hard. Why do I continue with this? And I stop and think and go, but would I be happy doing anything else?
Exactly.
And or would I be happy working for somebody else? Probably not, because the freedoms that I'm awarded by being my own boss are pretty incredible. And I have to pay attention. I still have to set boundaries for myself and make sure that I'm limiting myself, because I'd love to go out and buy a new car or whatever it is, but I still make a paycheck just like everybody else. And that's something that I had to learn the hard way, is you have to pay yourself.
Oh,
because you have to be compensated for your time just as much as your employees do.
And that is an easy, slippery slope for a lot of entrepreneurs. I mean, hello, I'm raising my hand right now. It's, there are moments in this process where, you do, I'll wait. Or, you put yourself last for the benefit of the business.
Right. Yeah.
And at some point, you have to.
And you don't have to put yourself first, but you have to put yourself in line with everything else. I read a book recently that talks about taking your profit first, putting that little bit of a percentage into an account separate so that you're profiting come quarter time and you can distribute some of that back to yourself. Because it sucks when you get that tax bill and it says, oh, you made $20,000 in profit this year, and you're sitting there looking at the bank account going, where?
Yeah. No,
Where?
I didn't.
I didn't see any of that. So I'm learning how to readjust finances, but making sure that I was paying myself, that was a big, big step in the right direction. And it made it all that much easier. Because at the end of the day, I'm like, well, you know what? I was compensated for the 80 hours I spent this week. It might not have been compensation equal to somebody else's job, but I still got paid for my work and effort.
And I think that's huge for a lot of entrepreneurs, that it's a process. And, like I said, peaks and valleys, and, and hits and misses. But at the end of the day, you said it best. Would I be happier working for somebody else or doing anything else? And I think it's that passion that drives, taking advantage of this land of opportunity and living that American dream.
Well, and I think there's, how do I put this? Being an entrepreneur here with this business has led me to multiple different ideas and being able to share my talents in other ways too. Like I'm working on a product idea and a patent, and when I actually have time to finally get it done. But there are things that I've found and seen working here that I'm like, I'd love to share this with somebody else. So making sure, spreading that and building on it and branching out too. Because I didn't know that I had an idea for something that wasn't there. So...
Yeah. Now, when you look at your industry and you see the holes and you see the voids, and you come in and you're like, I've got a good idea for that. And it's that, it's that entrepreneurial spirit. It takes so many forms. But you're right. I mean, it's, if you look at yourself as being, I'm a valuable player in this industry because of what I've built, right?
So you say that I'm notorious for putting my idols on a pedestal and not realizing that they're just a human like I am, and that they've worked and built just like I have. And it was, somebody came to me recently and said, oh, I want to work for you because of, and I went, but I'm nothing special. And I really had that conflict of, am I? Like, and then I sat back and went, okay, that idol has become my friend. So why can't I be that idol to somebody else and let them become my friend and support? Because really there aren't levels here. It's just a matter of maybe how public you are or where you're at in your career. But at the end of the day, we're all just working for the same thing, to be happy.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And to be, and to be an inspiration for someone else, I think is a benefit. And I know in my life we've had this conversation many times where we've looked at things that people tell us that maybe, like you said, we might not notice about ourselves, but it's, there's some responsibility there. And, I believe in the American dream. I think everybody, if you have a passion, you should start a small business. You should definitely follow your passion.
Well, and anybody can do it.
Exactly.
I don't have a college degree. I went to a couple of classes at the local community college. I've learned everything either from the internet or from my friends or my sister. There is no job out there that you have to have all the answers to. You just have to know where to find the answers. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know where to find the answers, then you need to find the people who know where to find the answers. And that's how we grow. And
Absolutely.
I full on believe that anybody can do this. If you've got drive and a willingness to dig down deep and work really hard, you can do it.
It's worth it. It's definitely worth it. Well, thank you, Jane, so much. I'm so happy that you were my first guest on this podcast, and you fulfilled everything that I was hoping for, and that was just your entrepreneurial journey and how you can literally start from just me and a brush, me and some scissors, and to have a team now and looking to a future of even more growth. And you've been an inspiration to me over the 2 years that I've known you, and I am so grateful that we had this opportunity to chat.
Thank you. I'm honored to have been your first interview here, and I hope you go very, very far with this. I'm excited to hear all the rest of the stories that you collect because I'm always looking for that inspiration from others. And I think we learn the most by sharing with each other. So thank you.
I would agree with that. Absolutely. Thank you, Jane Corbin. Bark Me Beautiful.